Excited.
Yeah, we're back. But we just did like a big training last week,
Okay.
and it was all done virtually because there were so many of us. We just didn't want to all be in the same room. So like sharing screen and muting people, and it was just yeah.
All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. How the last session went, we just kind of chatted about our kind of beliefs and views and how we approach college essays as admissions officers. And we noticed that a lot of our audience are parents. And so we want to be a support for you as you start to help your son or daughter apply to college. And so I'll just kind of start with a little bit of a preamble, and then Alex and I will kind of just give some tips and advice and things that we've noticed over the years and reading thousands of these essays. And so I will say there seems to be immense pressure on students to find the perfect topic or write the perfect essay. And I will say it's such a different genre of writing. It's such a highly personal piece of writing that I think the emphasis should be on your student's voice and the kind of feeling that one walks away after reading that essay. And so instead of kind of thinking of pressure and of topics that are unique, instead think of ways that your son or daughter or you can kind of express who you are through this essay. And if you think about all the pieces that go into a college application, maybe a test score, your transcript, your recommendation letters, your school profile, the essay is the one thing that isn't really set yet. Everything else has kind of been established and is kind of ready to go. Your teacher's opinions of you probably won't change in the 2 weeks that hopefully more than 2 weeks, then you give them to write the recommendation letter. Your transcript is largely set by the time your application is in. So the essay is really a moment for you to craft your application and for you to share something about yourself. And so instead of feeling kind of this pressure or this kind of negative feeling about the essay and what we're actually looking for, I would instead reframe it as a moment for you to have a really important voice in this process. And it's a chance for you to share something that might not be so evident in your application otherwise. And so, Alex, do you have any advice on how students can get started with this process and what that can inspire them if they're feeling stuck?
Yeah, I love that intro, Nikki, and I think that, yeah, I mean, we always encourage students to start early. Too often, the essay gets sort of moved to the last minute thing that the student's going to do right before they submit the application. And senior year, there's a lot of on our students' plates, right? They're getting ready for their final year of high school. They're thinking about applying. They're touring schools. But it's so great to start thinking about those essays, thinking about those prompts. The prompts are meant to guide how the student's going to talk about themselves, but it's not, a question and answer. There is no one right answer. So really it's a thought exercise that students can really sort of explore who they are, what they're passionate about, what they want us to know about them, write drafts, sort of ask questions. I think, talk about a lot of thought exercises, like sit down with a parent or a friend and have them interview you and sort of ask them questions about why you're looking to go to college, what's been a meaningful thing, and from those responses, start crafting an essay. Because like Nikki said, right, this is a personal essay. And at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for a student to share their voice. And too often, I think we hear about students saying, I want to meet with someone in admissions. I want to talk to someone in admissions. I just want to talk to them a little bit about why I'm interested. And unfortunately, because of the number of applications and the limits on our time, we can't meet with every student. The essay is a great opportunity to do that. We talk a lot about this idea of interviewing through the essay. So sharing those most important things that a student wants us to know about them through the entire application, but specifically telling that story through the essay. And so I think starting early, I think sort of finding your voice. This isn't an academic paper. This is a personal essay again. So, writing in a style that's comfortable to the student. If you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. This isn't an academic paper. Don't have someone else write it for you. You don't need to cite any work. This is meant to be your voice coming through in a very authentic way. And so I think the sooner a student begins, I think the longer a student sort of thinks about it. And I think the more a student puts in of themselves into the essay. one of the common sort of ideas that we try to put in students' head once they've written their essay is, if you took your name off the essay and you dropped it in the middle of your hallway after school and your best friend found it and picked it up, would they know it's you just by reading it? If so, you've written an essay that is truly personal and unique to you. And I think that's most importantly what we're asking for, right? Is an essay that distinguishes you and your application from all of the other applications, not because it's the most unique essay we've ever read, not because it's on a subject I've never thought of, not because you did something extraordinary, but because it is so authentically you and so personal to you that it can't be replicated by anyone else because only you or your student has had their experience. So yeah, I think that was the idea behind this session, is recognizing the importance of the essay and allowing us to talk about how students can really harness it to feel empowered over their application, feel like they actually have a voice when our staff sit down to read an application and make a decision, whether it's at Wake Forest or Carolina or any of the other schools here tonight. You feel like you're represented in your application. Yeah.
And we welcome your questions if you do have any. I mean, I think Alex and I can talk about this all night, or if we wanted to, and we could go rounds on good essays and bad essays and essays that struck a chord with us. But I think so please ask your questions. Either come on off mute or ask your question in a chat. But I'll simply also say that there is a misnomer that there are bad essay topics, and I said last time that. I Googled once bad essay topics for a college application essay, and it's typical things like don't write about a torn ACL and don't write about a grandparent, but the truth is I've read great application essays on a torn ACL and a grandparent. So it's not so much what you choose to write about, it's how you write about it and the impression you give us through your essay. So I would always advise students, think of qualities or something that's important to you that you want to come across in that essay, and then craft a story or think of a story from your experiences that can exemplify what those qualities are. And so don't put too much pressure on yourself to find a fabulous topic, because it really doesn't matter what you write about it. It's how you write about it and your reflections and thoughts and ruminations that stand out to us. And that's the impression we take away from your essay. There's this misconception that students have to have a wildly fantastic experience in order to write a good college essay. And I've read a wonderful essays on working at McDonald's for a summer, because that's what the student needed to do in order to support their family, and it made them reflect on their lives and where they were going. And I think that's a great thing to talk about. So you don't have to have a dramatic experience. You can make a college essay on something very mundane but important to you, and that's what we're interested in getting to know. So I don't think you have to have this wild topic or feel this pressure. The topic is not as important as you think, is I think what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think along those lines too, there's a lot of students that the Common App, the Coalition, university applications, short answer responses, right? They're all prompts. There are all these ideas that, let's ask a student or pose a student this idea or this question, but really see in what direction they run into that. So I find too, sometimes students go ahead and start building this box around themselves because they think, well, does my answer or does the story I want to tell fall specifically within one of these prompts? And if not, I don't feel like I can share it, or I feel like I have to shape it to what it's asking. But really, if the prompt gets a student or you open up on the road and you're really talking about an experience you've had, that's what really conveys, I think, to Nikki's point, right? More so than did you answer the question, did this really match up with the prompt? It's what did you share with us? What did we pull from this? And I think that something that was said in the last session by Nikki, which I've been thinking about since we talked about it, is just using the essays too as sort of as a reflection, right? As a representation of the university that you're looking at. And understanding too that the not so much the Common App and the Coalition, which are created for all schools that are using them, but if you answer short answer responses that are unique to the university or fill in the blanks, use that as sort of an opportunity to get to know the school that you're applying to, right? These are things that we're curious about. We've created these questions. There is a group of people that have sat around and thought, should we include this in our essay?
Hours and hours and hours.
Yes, and potentially have answered it themselves or thought how they would answer it. Those are great tools to you to use as you're also navigating this process of fit and where do I want to be? What kind of essays or what kind of topics are being presented to you, and what are we trying to get your feedback on and hear from you about? So yeah, I think that this is all such helpful information about the essay, and I don't know if there is a chat feature in here. I was actually just looking and trying to see if there was a chat.
You're right, there isn't.
Maybe, yeah. So if you have a question and you want to either show your face or raise your emoji hand or just sort of take yourself off mute and ask, we'd love to help answer anyone's questions as maybe you're thinking about applying, or you're a junior, you or your child is a junior and you're thinking about the application process, or you've got a senior or you yourself are a senior and you're right in the middle of applying to schools and need help navigating this process. Are there any questions?
So with regard to the essay, now you talked about prompts. So where do you find those? And we're just starting the process of applying right now. And is that something that they go through on the Naviance or the Common App that will?
I just shared my screen. I'll answer this really quickly. We're referring to Common App prompts, or coalition prompts. So yeah. These are the prompts, and they change slightly every year. Sometimes they kind of change a couple words, but they're all highly personal, and they're all very open-ended and give students a lot of room for space and how they answer questions. And so these are the prompts for the Common App this year. They're posted every year on the Common App website, and then every university, we post our questions in the summertime. These are our prompts that we use at Wake Forest for our supplement. So, the essay is actually several pieces of writing. It's not just the long kind of 500-word essay. But if you have questions about that, we're also happy to answer those. But each university also has their own kind of questions they ask of students in the application process. But these are the prompts we're referring to. So these are the Common App prompts and individual university prompts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they'll all be in the application, right? Yes. So in the Common App, you write that one main essay that goes to all the schools you're applying to, and then traditionally, as you indicate the different schools that you're interested in, the Common App sort of tailors your sort of main screen to then those schools. So it'll say Carolina has these supplemental questions and these short answer questions. Wake Forest has these supplemental questions and this top 10 list and all these things we want you to do. So everything's in one spot, whether you're doing the Common App or the Coalition, it's all right there. So that's a great place to find everything. We also have stuff on our website as well. But if you're looking for where is all of this located and where will your child be prompted to answer all this, it's in that actual application.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Well, Jill, you're still on mute.
This is my last child to go through high school, my last boy, and so he's different from the others, and we've already had many arguments about essays. And so I guess I've questioned some of the topics that were on the Common App, like sort of where did those topics come from? But when you're choosing one, and I know you said it's about what you bring to it, but should it be more about an experience that you've had so he can put more into it? Or should you choose a topic that you wouldn't normally think that you would be comfortable with? What would you suggest?
I mean, all the prompts are, in a way they are similar because they're just very personal and they're trying to give students space in order to answer it in a way that makes sense. And I think I like the open-endedness of them, but I mean, I would never advise a student to choose a question that is uncomfortable for them. And especially the one that's kind of difficult to answer is the one on failure. That one's a hard one to come around because you have to kind of explain why you're what you failed in and how you overcame it. And so I think I would I would choose an essay where your son can answer the question, but also get something across about himself. And so I don't think that, and we don't know what he's comfortable or not comfortable answering because we only get the one essay, right? So, but I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's
I guess,
certainly,
yeah. What I'm taking from it is it has to be something that he can contribute to, but has to be something that you can see who he is without
Exactly.
knowing who he is.
Exactly. That is the one piece where we get your student's voice loud and clear in the application. And so if you, I love what Alex said about dropping the essay in the middle of the hall. If you read that essay and you're like, this is my son, then that is a good essay. Because I think students that approach this process with authenticity and as a process of self-discovery, of understanding who they are and what shaped their views and how they see their intellectual future. I think that those students land where they're meant to land at the university, and at the university they're supposed to. There are over 4,000 universities in the United States, and so it's good to know, or it's good to be authentic in this process because you'll end up where you're supposed to end up. And so if the essay sounds like your son, then that is a good essay, and that should be a proud moment, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes it easier for me to explain to him what it's supposed to be
But
about.
it should be appropriate, right? I mean, it is a personal piece of writing, but there are it should be appropriately personal and should get across qualities that we want to learn more about. But but there's so many different ways to interpret those questions. I can understand the frustration with the open-endedness of it.
Yeah, because we have quite different ideas. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So as you're starting to work on your college essays, I would urge you to think of, things you're proud of in high school, things that have shaped you, moments where you've grown and learned. And I think that those can be kind of good starting points for thinking about an essay. But this is a specialized piece of writing. It is personal, but we do really value it as getting to know you in this process. And so don't be afraid to be yourself, because like I said, if you approach this in a genuine way, you'll land at the right university. That's the best fit for you. But I would think about kind of just do some reflection and start to think about what moments have shaped you in high school.
Yeah, and I mean, we understand too that for many students that there's, if you or your child has something that they want to talk about, but maybe it's not reflected in a moment. Maybe it's an ongoing experience. It's been family. It's been a lifelong thing. It's been commitment to athletics or a commitment to a discipline, and that's what your student really wants to talk about. You can still shape an essay around those things, a personal essay, and you would do that obviously right through storytelling, right? So along this journey of athletics or experience with family, pick out a story, right? We would encourage you to pick out a story that really sort of shapes and sort of does a little bit of world building to sort of frame up, and talk about what sort of is important, right? So it's pulling different parts. If part of being on an athletic team is about, a community, experiencing failure, experiencing achievement, pushing yourself physically, we see that a lot of time too. I don't want to talk about athletics because everyone talks about athletics and I don't want to do that. But if you can sort of shape that experience into, a story about one game, one experience you had that really sort of helped you to understand and appreciate these things that were happening in your life, the way that you've been shaped by it, and you can do it in a very personal way. And we use this idea of sort of showing and not telling us, right? Listing out, I learned from athletics how to be a team player, how to mature, learned leadership. Is there a way that you could tell us all those things without explicitly telling us that? Is there a way you could show us this through a story that reflects this experience that you have? And I can appreciate, and I think Nikki has been sort of sharing this as well, this is not an easy task, right? Personal essays are very hard to write, and are probably for many of your students or you very foreign, right? Because you've been writing academic papers. You've had to sort of work on sort of being an impartial voice in these writings that you're doing. But now we're asking you to really sort of talk about yourself and to do it in 650 words and to do it to a complete stranger and to send it off to 8 to 10 different schools or however many you're applying to. But I think the sooner that you can sort of become comfortable with this idea and take ownership over it, right? That this is your opportunity to ensure that a decision that is made on your application had some piece of you involved in it, right? Your voice, your experience, something that's important to you. I think is such a great opportunity. And not just in the main essay, we're talking about the main essay a lot, but again, remembering that we also have these supplemental essays and short answer responses that continue to allow you as a student to sort of present yourself. And again, all of this is part of a holistic review, right? So this combined with extracurriculars, combined with recommendations, combined with your academic achievements, combined with the context of you and your school and your experiences and your lived life, those are all going to be part of this application. So if you ever are starting to feel immense pressure about the essay, do remember that is just one part. And that there are other places too that if you find you connect with better, then that's fine too. If the short answers are really where you want to open up, if the responses, if your extracurriculars, if that additional information section, if the COVID response is really where you feel like you can talk most and be authentic, that's great too. But we encourage you to try to explore the essay as a way of really helping us get to know you a little bit better as the people who are sitting on the side of the desk.
And I don't think you need a hook or a dramatic tale. I mean, how many times, Alex, have you started an essay and it's been like sweat dripped in my eyes and like,
Yes.
like I think students feel this
yeah.
this compulsion to be dramatic, and you don't need that. Or sometimes the essay will begin 3, 2, 1, and like it kind of has this like hook feel to it. And I don't think you need a gimmick like that, and only if that's who you are, right? So it should be a very good reflection of who you are. I would recommend do not have too many people read it. Too many cooks in the kitchen is not a good thing for a college essay. Have someone who knows you well read it, and make sure that you give them space to read it. Don't read it, or don't have them read it while you're standing there, but you should ask them, does this sound like me? You shouldn't say, is this a good essay? Is this a bad essay? Is this a good topic? Is this a bad topic? The question you should ask your people who read your essay is, does this sound like me? And yes, it is good to check for grammatical errors and things like that, but to be honest, it happens and we kind of understand, and it's distracting at best. Or distracting at worst, maybe. It's never anything too dramatic, but it's good to kind of clean that up. But I think the biggest question when you write your essay, and Alex's advice of taking your time with it and working on it, I think there's a lot of power in putting the essay away for a little bit and coming back to it with fresh eyes, with the question in mind: does this sound like who I am and who I want this university to know, or what I want this university to know about me? And so again, being yourself is very important. And as someone who's read thousands of these essays, it comes across when students are trying to be something they aren't, and it comes across when students are remaining authentic to who they are. So it says we have 30 seconds left in this session. So I hope that we've given you some guidance. I hope we have demystified this process a little bit. I hope we haven't made it more confusing. And thank you for your attention. And please, I think Alex and I are happy to answer any questions in the last couple of seconds if we do have any, because I think there's some time to move around. So thank you for attending.
Yeah, thank you. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening if you don't have any questions, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.